Now enter the Android Saga. This is the story of Vegeta's brother Tarble joining his brother Vegeta alongside this journey in this Dragon Ball What If story. We left off with the Planet Saga, Tarble tapping into a false Super Saiyan after witnessing his brother die at the hands of Frieza. Eventually Goku steps in, gives Tarble a compliment, something Vegeta has never done, and Goku and Frieza's battle plays out the same as it would in the traditional story. So now we get to the Android Saga, and as I said in the last episode, we're going to simplify this to the best of my abilities. I don't want to make it too convoluted or too complex. I think that's a lot of people's only gripes with the Android/Cell Saga. Convoluted, so many kind of things running about one another, kind of this intertwined web, so to speak. We're going to simplify it to the best of our ability. Just a reminder, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. Make sure mobile notifications are on if you are subscribed. And check the community tab here on this channel for when I post videos, artwork, memes, GIFs, and other stuff. Without further ado, let's get into the Android Saga. So, Android Saga, again, starts off pretty, traditional as the other stories have. Not too much changes. The only difference is Tarble is now there alongside his brother Vegeta. And with that being said, again, Tarble, he's continuing to get stronger. He's not at his brother's strength, but Vegeta is still continuing to train him. He has nothing else to do, and at the same time, Vegeta is able to try out new techniques on his brother. So, unfortunately, Tarble is kind of used as a training dummy, so to speak. And his only trade-off is he is also getting a little bit stronger, training alongside his older brother Vegeta. That's about the only benefit Tarble really gets from staying around Vegeta. He does have his brother's protection, despite the fact that Vegeta attacked him on Earth during the Saiyan Saga only because Tarble was interfering when Vegeta didn't want him to. But still, he has his brother's protection and he is still gaining some strength at the same time. That's about the only thing Tarble really has to look forward to. But in this Android Saga, thoughts keep replaying in Tarble's head. Words keep replaying in his head. And that's what Goku said about him being a decent fighter, and he doesn't necessarily have to obviously follow his brother Vegeta. He can be his own man. He can be his own fighter. He can become a lot stronger than he thinks. He is a lot stronger than he believes. These are things that, again, Vegeta has never complimented Tarble on, and Tarble keeps replaying these things in his head. So again, more conflict, eternal conflict going on in Tarble as he's trying to balance out, do I continue to stay with my brother, or do I maybe do what this other Saiyan, this Kakarot, says, and I try to go my own route? But again, that internal struggle of not knowing where to go, how he would fend for himself, despite the fact that he's a little bit stronger than he believes, it's enough to keep Tarble right at his brother's footsteps. So the events of the Android Saga pretty much play out the same as they do in the traditional story. There's not too many variations. Only difference is Tarble actually witnesses his brother Vegeta get embarrassed by Android 18 and the other things that we know of in this story. Other than that, nothing really changes. Tarble himself doesn't get involved in too much of the fighting until we now get to the point where Cell makes his introduction. Vegeta and Trunks go into the hyperbolic time chamber alongside with Tarble. Now, we know what Trunks thinks of the hyperbolic time chamber. It's so hot, it's so exhausting, all that stuff, right? That remains the same, but now Vegeta's younger brother Tarble is also in there, and if it's overwhelming for Trunks, who at this point is obviously much stronger than Vegeta's younger brother Tarble, imagine how the hyperbolic time chamber is for Tarble. Now, obviously, we know only two people can go in the hyperbolic time chamber at the same time, so what they've essentially done is shifts. First, Vegeta and Trunks go in, and then secondly, Trunks comes back out and Vegeta and Tarble go in. So Tarble's completely overwhelmed by the pressure, the heat, everything of the hyperbolic time chamber, the air. It is so much for Tarble, and Vegeta tells him to suck it up. You are not some sissy low-class warrior, yada yada yada. Despite the fact that he knows how significantly weaker than him Tarble is, he's essentially feeding Tarble lies, telling him to suck it up. You're of royal blood, you can handle this, stop your whining, we have training to do. Now, unfortunately, because Tarble is not able to keep up with the hyperbolic time chamber like that of Trunks and Vegeta, Tarble is hardly able to move in there at all, and this frustrates Vegeta so much that, again, he starts to turn on his younger brother. He starts to kind of beat him up and tell him all these disparaging, negative things, and again, it is pushing Tarble more and more away from his brother I would say emotionally, as far as that connection is. Tarble used to admire his brother, used to look up to him, but now since Vegeta's getting more and more fed up with the fact that Tarble is so much weaker than him, now more of that is starting to come out of Vegeta's personality, more of that punishment, more of that mistreatment is starting to affect Tarble. And again, because of what Goku said on Planet Namek, Tarble is really starting to consider maybe going off on his own and not essentially being by his brother's side like he has been for his whole life. Nonetheless, Tarble was able to get some benefits out of the hyperbolic time chamber, though nothing truly significant. But again, he is still able to continue on improving his strength little by little, despite the mistreatment and despite all the things he's had to endure with his punishment essentially from his own brother Vegeta. So when we get back to the fighting here, and we know Vegeta had the potential to kill Cell, but of course Vegeta's arrogance and cockiness screwed that whole situation up. In fact, both Goku and Vegeta made mistakes during the Cell saga. I feel like it's always one or the other that gets more blame. I think they both equally deserve the blame in that arc, because they both essentially had the cockiness and the arrogance to say, could defeat him, but not really going to do it. I'd rather do this. Both Goku and Vegeta made the same mistakes in the Cell saga, which is why I think they both rightfully deserve the blame for how that entire situation turned out that really could have obviously been prevented. So as we get back to the story and the fight between Vegeta and Cell, Trunks is warning Vegeta, warning his father to stop messing around. You have to defeat Cell now. You must do it. Vegeta doing what he did in the initial story, ignoring the advice of his son. Well, now he has his younger brother as well, telling him the same thing. You must listen to Trunks. You must listen to your son. Now, Tarble is not too versed on the whole time travel thing, but obviously everybody understands the family dynamics now, and Trunks is like, brother, listen to your son, listen to him, he's right, he wouldn't be telling you this if it wasn't true. And of course Vegeta's still ignoring everybody, he's not listening to everybody. This is frustrating not only Trunks but Tarble even more so, because now Tarble's patience with his brother is running out. Now that meter is getting filled, he's about to explode. Everything he has had to endure from his brother from the very beginning of their time together as young Saiyans, to their time on Earth, Planet Namek, and now this situation back on Earth here in the Android Cell saga, the mistreatment he suffered in the hyperbolic time chamber, now it has essentially caused Tarble to explode. And this is where the events of this story go a little bit different, because as opposed to how they initially play out, Tarble then goes in to actually attack his brother Vegeta. He sends an attack at Vegeta that does distract Vegeta and hit him. Everybody is like, WTF, what just happened? And some characters, some of the Z fighters, like, Tarble, why did you attack your older brother? Why would you do that? He's not the enemy right now. And Tarble just absolutely snapped. He couldn't take it. He couldn't handle it anymore. Everything bottled up to this point, to this moment, and he officially had enough of his brother's arrogance, his brother's cockiness, the mistreatment of others that Vegeta has shown quite enormously to everyone. And again, because Tarble has been under the brunt of all of that punishment and all of that treatment, he officially snaps. Now keep in mind, Tarble is kind of in a rage-filled state at this point, so his strength is multiplied much higher than it normally would have been if Tarble was fighting under the normal circumstances with a normal mindset. He's completely snapped. He hasn't, turned into a grave ape or anything, but he has essentially done what Vegeta did when Bulma got slapped by Beerus. Tarble's kind of had a very similar moment, so he's only had a very short-term rage boost, so to speak, but it was enough to actually make him stronger than that of his brother Vegeta. Now, for fans watching, this is great because you were sick of Tarble being so poorly treated by that of Vegeta. It's awesome to see that, but at the same time you're also frustrated because you're like, this does not help. Cell is still the enemy at the end of the day. All you are doing is weakening one of our fighters against the real adversary Cell. So it's kind of a catch-50. There are people that are happy with Tarble, people that are happy for Tarble snapping and finally not laying by the side and actually standing up to his brother Vegeta, as well at the same time people are frustrated because it's like, this is not the enemy, you are not helping our case. So that is kind of what happens here with Tarble finally snapping against his brother Vegeta. Eventually that situation dies down because they have to remember who the real enemy is. Cell pops back into the mix, and the story pretty much plays out traditionally as it does in the regular canon format, as far as Goku sacrificing himself and everything else. Only additional thing that they have is Tarble is there, and him snapping against Vegeta actually sapped a lot of his energy, so he really wasn't much of a help once that moment eventually subsided. In fact, it was as if he wasn't there because he used more energy than he's ever used in his entire life.